There is a book quoted in the Bible, read by early Christians, and believed to reveal secrets about angels, giants, and the end of the world. Yet today, this book is missing from most Bibles. It wasn't destroyed by time. It wasn't forgotten by accident. It was left out. This is the Book of Enoch, and this is the story of why it disappeared. Before we ask why it vanished, we have to ask a bigger question. What was inside this book that made it too uncomfortable to keep? In this video, we're going to look at 4 big questions. What is the Book of Enoch? What's actually inside it? Why did it trouble the early church? And why was it ultimately left out of most Bibles? Stay with me to the end because we'll finish with one more question. If a book like Enoch could disappear, what else has been forgotten? Section 1. Who was Enoch? According to the Bible, Enoch was no ordinary man. Genesis says he walked with God, and then he was taken. No funeral, no grave. He did not die in the usual way. He vanished. For early Jewish readers and later Christians, that made Enoch a mystery. Who was this man close enough to God to skip death itself? And if he walked with God, what did he see? Centuries later, an ancient text appeared, claiming to record Enoch's visions of heaven, fallen angels, and coming judgment. That text became known as the Book of Enoch. Section 2. What is the Book of Enoch? The Book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish work written roughly between 300 BC and 100 AD. For a long time, it was read and copied across parts of the ancient world. Fragments of Enoch have been found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, showing that some Jewish groups considered it important enough to preserve. Today, a full version survives mainly in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, where it is still treated as scripture. In most other Christian traditions, it quietly faded from the official Bible. Here's where things get even more interesting. In the New Testament, the small book of Jude mentions Enoch by name and records a prophecy that closely matches what we read in the Book of Enoch. This tells us something important. Early Christians knew about Enoch's writings. They didn't see it as some random legend. So we're left with a tension. If Enoch's words were known, respected, and even quoted, why was the book itself later excluded? Section 3. What's inside the book? Now we step into the part that makes many people uneasy. The Book of Enoch describes a group of angels called the Watchers, heavenly beings sent to observe humanity. But they didn't just watch, they rebelled. According to Enoch, they descended to earth, took human wives, and crossed a line that should never have been crossed. They taught humanity forbidden knowledge: metalworking, weapons, astrology, sorcery. Their children were called the Nephilim, giants who filled the earth with violence and corruption. In Enoch's telling, the world wasn't just morally bad. It was spiritually contaminated. And this, Enoch says, is what pushed God to reset the world through the flood in Noah's time. The judgment wasn't only about human sin, it was about a cosmic rebellion that warped creation itself. Section 4. Why this troubled the church? The Book of Enoch didn't just fill in details. It complicated the story. It suggested that angels could fall in organized rebellion. Heaven had ranks and hidden hierarchies. Evil wasn't only humanity's fault. Judgment was far bigger than individual people. It was cosmic. For many church leaders, this opened doors they weren't comfortable with. The more detail you give to angels, demons, and spiritual realms, the more room there is for speculation, fear, and controversy. Enoch raised questions that were hard to control. If spiritual beings influence human history this directly, what does that mean for our understanding of technology, power, and knowledge? Section 5. Why it was left out. Over the first few centuries of Christianity, leaders met to discern which books truly belonged in the Bible. Many writings were discussed: letters, gospels, apocalypses, and ancient traditions like Enoch. The Book of Enoch eventually faced several problems in these debates. It wasn't preserved in the same Hebrew form as other Old Testament books. It relied heavily on visions and symbolic imagery. It gave very vivid, speculative descriptions of angels and spiritual realms. Over time, some of its ideas didn't fit neatly with later church theology. The result? Enoch wasn't officially treated as pure fiction, but it also wasn't accepted into the Bible for most churches. It wasn't burned. It wasn't completely erased. It was simply left out. And sometimes being left out is the quietest way a book disappears. Section 6. Why the Book of Enoch still matters. So if most Christians today don't treat Enoch as scripture, why does this book still matter? Because it changes how we look at certain parts of the Bible, even if we don't put it on the same level. It affects how we think about Genesis and the mysterious sons of God and the Nephilim, the flood, and just how corrupt the world had become, the unseen realm of angels, demons, and spiritual powers. The idea that history is part of a much larger, unseen conflict. The Book of Enoch reminds us that spiritual history is shaped not only by what survives, but by what is chosen to survive. Some books were lost to time, others were lost by decision, and the Book of Enoch may be one of the most important of those forgotten works. If this book once stood close enough to the Bible to be known, copied, and even quoted, and still disappeared from most Bibles, then we have to ask, what else has been forgotten? What other pages of our spiritual story are still in the shadows? If you're drawn to lost books, forbidden history, and forgotten knowledge, subscribe now. This channel is dedicated to uncovering the pages most people never hear about. Because the Book of Enoch is only the beginning, and that's a story for another page.